Batman 2. So there is some progress on the Batman 2, which is really good. So we did get some news last week about Matt Reeves and basically saying that, Matt Reeves is about to turn in, and it's on Memorial Day, which is this Sunday or this weekend. He's turning in his first rough draft of the Batman 2, which is awesome. I want to know how you feel about that. And then also, we need to talk about these idiots on the internet that have been just lying about the Batman. But how do you feel about, Matt Reeves finally having his draft done, turning it in, he's like prepared to get
Took a
going?
long time. Like, yeah, there were a couple delays in there that were reasonable, but it still took a really long time. And I have a couple of thoughts about that. And basically, number one, we should note that supposedly he has been turning in pages at a time. So a lot of this stuff isn't going to be new to the studio, James Gunn and the studio heads, which is a good thing because we want this draft we want less drafts of this script. The less drafts, the faster it gets made, the better. I just want to see this movie. But unlike everyone else, I've learned to be patient with this stuff. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait. I'd rather wait less time. But fact of the matter is, we're going to have to wait. The sooner you accept that and stop crying about it on the internet, the sooner you'll stop embarrassing yourself. Now, the other thing here is that, why did it take so long? I know there were some complications and personal things with Matt Reeves, but it's not outside the possibility that they weren't certain which direction they wanted to go creatively. And, that could have been something that held this up. It's possible that the studio receives the script and they say they absolutely love it, start production as soon as possible. It's also possible they send it back and they say, we like this, we don't like that, we like this, we don't like that, yada, yada. So, which way it could go. I think anyone who doubted that this movie was coming deserves a chink in their armor of credibility. It was, if you couldn't understand that the first one did $700 million and the Penguin was wildly successful and they were not going to leave the money of the Batman Part 2 on the table, you don't deserve credibility. Like, that's just crazy. So that's number one. I really want to see this movie. I love Pattinson as Batman for the Batman Epic Crime Saga. But why did you go back? You were so away from that. You kind of like, yeah, I read more Scott Snyder Batman. I understand your point. And now last week you're like, yes. And I was just like, oh my God.
Okay. So no, look, right. I understand. No, look, I have said verbatim that I do think it is the best choice to find a new guy, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm 100% against Pattinson being the DCU Batman. But like, it's kind of like it's kind of like how I am with the whole Spider-Man 4 thing, right? I wouldn't mind if it's either, but I understand why they wouldn't go with, like Pattinson. So and when I read Scott Snyder, it just told me like, yeah, like you need another guy. You know what I mean? But if they chose Pattinson, I do believe Pattinson is talented enough to change his Batman, which would be hard, but like I think he can do both. You know what I mean? But I do think they're going to go with the other guy, and I'm not mad about it, like I was, before. Like I'm totally over it, But if it happened,
okay,
yeah,
I can understand that.
Yeah,
Even though
it's more like that.
The thing is, and we're not going to get too much into it unless you want to respond to what I'm going to say, because if you've been watching the show, you already know how I feel about it. If you're a bit newer, to sum it all up for you, I just think that I love Pattinson as Batman. However, I understand that Pattinson's Batman is a much more reserved, soft-spoken Batman than the kind of Batman they're going to need that's going to be a leader in the Bat family, a leader in the Justice League for the DCU. Basically, it might be the same character, but it's an entirely different role. And I think that they're starting over from scratch. They may as well pick the perfect person for the role instead of just pick the guy that they already have because it's convenient. If Stevie wants to respond to that, we could do it. If not, we're going to get more into the Batman 2 and the direction we're going with the Batman 2.
I have no rebuttals. Nah,
Okay.
I agree with everything you're saying there.
All right. So,
yeah,
we have, if you have been watching the show, I'm a diehard Court of Owls guy. That's the comic that got me into comics to begin with. They are my favorite Batman villain. I think they're the best Batman villain, maybe tied with the Joker, but that's another story. Anyway, I think it's going to be the Court of Owls or Hush. I think they have kind of threw us a number of clues on each to kind of keep everyone on their toes. And I think they were really smart in doing that. It's the Batman epic crime saga. It's a noir mystery. So the Court of Owls or Hush are the perfect choices. If you don't know who they are, the Court of Owls are basically a secret society in Gotham that control everything from the shadows, to the point that when Batman kind of first got wind of them, he was like, he didn't even believe they existed, because they were so they were so secretive that he was like, if they exist, I would have known about them. And it shocked him. And then Hush is a childhood friend of his that is just out of his mind and kind of, manipulates other villains. He's also an amazing villain. A lot of people would probably say he might be their favorite Batman villain. So listen, I would prefer Court of Owls, but I would still be happy with Hush. I think both of them would be a great fit. Then there's the other thing that we have to talk about, is the fact that the Joker was, in the Batman Part 1. I don't think they did that to say he's going to be the villain of Part 2. I think they just wanted to do some world building and hint that at some point we're going to mash up with the Joker. Obviously, the Riddler is still alive. Obviously, the Riddler's not going to be the big bad. That would be insane. But he was great for the Batman Part 1. I just think that, listen, this movie's going to come out, and I think it's going to be amazing. I just hope that they are confident in the direction they ended up choosing, because I do think that was part of the holdup. I think that this script just took so long that I think there was some creative hesitancy at some point. And I really hope that the direction they went in, they're fully confident in the way they're confident enough with Superman to do a fan screening 5 days before release.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree, bro. I definitely think that it has to be hard for Matt Reeves right now because of the fact that they're doing Brave and the Bold. And there's probably a lot of things that he really can't do because of, and maybe he had ideas to expand a whole lot more because the DCU wasn't a thought when the Batman was coming out. You know what I mean? So there's definitely probably more guardrails, and maybe he had to restructure whole entire story. Like, who knows what was going on behind the scenes. But I do want to talk about some of these liars, bro, because what made me mad was there were people tweeting saying that the Batman is shooting right now and Matt Reeves isn't on set. I'm like, what are we talking about? They don't start shooting until the end of the year. And there were people running with it. And I was seeing TikToks of people talking about this. I'm like, what is going on? And then James Gunn, I'm pretty sure James Gunn said, or James Gunn was like, just to remind y'all, Paz is now gonna be the Batman. He said something of that. And then Deadline talked about, about Matt Reeves finally going to submit his first draft. But it's like, there's been so many lies about the Batman 2 and Matt Reeves. It's so insane, man. People are just crazy. But look, I am happy that a script is turned in. And I do agree it is pretty late, and it did take a long time to submit that script. But I just hope that we get to see a progression in Batman. I want better fighting. I want newer gadgets. I want newer cars. I want newer suit. And I want Matt Reeves to do his thing. So, and then like the other hard thing that I was thinking about is like, when you have a guy like Nolan that you're kind of following up, when it comes to doing maybe a Batman trilogy or something similar to, what he's done, I think that also is hard because you don't want to use the Joker for your sequel because you know he did. Like maybe that's another thought that he's the thing as well. So it's his job to come up with something that is very creative and something that is out of the ordinary, which is why the Court of Owls would be the best option. Just saying,
Yeah,
because
I still
that would throw everything for a loop. You know what I mean? That would be awesome.
I think they have to use the Joker at some point. And I don't think it's a problem to do because Nolan did. Maybe on the sequel, I think you probably have a good point there.
Yeah.
But, there is a reason that everyone knows who the Joker is. And I do think that, again, the, people who don't know what they're talking about on Twitter will say, oh, the Joker's played out, this and that. The Joker is not played out because he's still so interesting and he still is such a good villain. And there's a reason he's like probably the most iconic villain in all of comic books, So, and it seems like I don't know. I also feel like Barry Keoghan would absolutely crush it if he had his chance to shine as the Joker. I always really liked him as an actor. But I think it's more important to do Court of Owls or Hush first. I think Court of Owls would be insane. But I agree. There's great points. We definitely need some progression and advancement in our Batman. We saw him, kind of grow up as Batman at the end of the file. So yeah, that would be a power move for sure. And it would, I think fans would really, I think that would resonate really well with fans.